And the time at the moment of the greeting of the return of his son was not a time for bashing, scolding, or tough love. Well, if you think you're just going to come back here and take the place that you had before, you got another thing coming, son. Okay, you're going to have to work your way back up. You're going to have to go, you'll have to sleep with the slaves, you'll have to sleep in the stuff, and we'll just see, and you'll eat what they eat, and you can just forget about, no, none of that. But instead, let's read on. And he said, I am not worthy to be called thy son, verse 22. But the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe. The best robe. The best. What you got? What's your best? The very best robe. Turn to Ephesians chapter 5 real quick. Keep your fingers there. We're coming back. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 27. Ephesians 5:27, that he, God, that God might present it, who? Us, to himself. A glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. God's not interested in anything that's wrinkled, got spots or blemishes on it. He wants for you and I the very best robe. And that means that we give back to God our very best. Whatever that is, whatever your best is, God deserves it. Say amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Folks, he's going to present you and I to himself. And we're going to be without spot, without wrinkle, without blemish, holy, and without any mars. So you better pick up the pace. You better hurry. Now, folks, every day on the playground, I have 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids. They say, Coach, watch this. Coach, watch this. I want to show them something. And inevitably, my immediate response is always the same. Okay, show me what you got. And for some kids, it's just like putting gasoline on fire. When I say those words, okay, show me what you got. They just well up. Others kind of go through the thing, and I'm straightforward with them. If it's not much, I go, seriously? Is that all you got, Johnny? That's all you got, Johnny? You wanted me to watch that dude, and that's all you got? You got to have more than that. Come on, dog. Show me more than that. You got more than that, don't you? Do it again. This time do it the way that you know that you can do it. Okay, you walk across the bar. And I go, that'll baby, now you got it, dog. Now you're doing it right. Show me what you got. Christian people, let's show God what we got.
Yeah.
Let's show God what we got.
Yeah.
Show me what you got. Let's just talk about it. Do it. Show it. Get the best robe and put it on him. Next one. And put a ring. Put a ring on his finger. What did the ring represent without taking too much time? Folks, this is all now spiritual placement that God is trying to get us to understand. The first thing in representation of the best robe, folks, represented the glory of God. The glory of God. His glory. And we're to give back to him the best we've got in glory. That best robe represented the glory of who he was. Now put a ring on his finger. In Genesis we read where that Pharaoh, when Joseph was raised through the ranks, and we know the story of Joseph. And Joseph now ascended into even Pharaoh's palace. And Pharaoh brought Joseph in one day. And as I paraphrase, Joseph, you're a fine young man. I've noticed things about you, and you've interpreted dreams, and you've done things, and there's something about you inside that is a quality that I want in my palace. And Pharaoh took off his ring and put it on Joseph's finger, and said to Joseph, I now transfer my authority to you. And now what is my authority is now your authority. So when the father said, put a ring on his finger, that meant I'm giving him my authority. So what I say, he can say. So what I do, he can do. And whatever he declares, it must be. Christian people, we've got all spiritual authority and dominion over the forces of all the spirit world. Let us take dominion and power and authority and declare that my Redeemer lives. Amen. Hallelujah. I don't care who the president-elect is. Jesus Christ still sits on the throne. Amen. Hallelujah. He still sits on the throne. And no matter how much the world protests this leader or that leader, Christians around the world must shout it from the mountaintops, must shout it from the valleys, and shout it in our homes. Jesus, my Redeemer lives. Amen. And for me and my house, him alone will we serve. Say amen. Amen. Put a ring on his finger. And shoes on his feet. Verse 22. And shoes on his feet. And what those shoes represented, people, for you and I, is position. It notified everyone in Dad's business and in the family and the extended family where this son who once was dead but now alive, what his position is. And what his position isn't is one of a servant. What his position is my son. What your position is, you're a son, you're a child of God. Say amen.
Yes, amen.
And that deserves certain behaviors. That deserves a certain way of looking at things. That deserves certain ways that we feel about and we don't feel about given circumstances in our world today. Put shoes on his feet. And then my favorite, yours too. Verse 23, and bring hither the fatted calf. Not the skinny one, but the one that's fat. I mean, fat. Now folks, my dad was a meat cutter when he pastored in Moscow for 8 years. He was like, I'm like him. He pastored his church, but the church was unable to provide enough income to provide all the financial needs to raise his family. So he worked as a meat cutter at Safeway, just right down the street from where we lived. My dad was a meat cutter. Years and years ago, I became a meat cutter for about 8, 9, 10, 12 months there in McMinnville, Oregon. And I got to tell you something. One of the privileges of being a meat cutter is you're able to save back for yourself the best cuts and put them in the freezer. Now it can kind of get expensive, but as a meat cutter, when you come across a piece of meat that is marbled just perfect, and I'm talking the fatted calf, oh my Lord, oh my word, the fatted calf! Not the skinny one, not the lean one, for all of you people who don't understand the greatness of fat. The fatted calf! Folks, one of the reasons we eat so much in this church is number one, because it's a very spiritual activity. And number two, to get us all ready for heaven. Because when we get to heaven, we're going to eat the fatted calf. And for those of you who don't agree or haven't understood quite yet, then you'll get the skinny pieces. I get the fat pieces. I got to tell you, honestly, I got to tell you, that this was a couple years ago, Linda and I after church on Mother's Day. Well, let's go out to eat. So it was late. It was about 1:30, so we go to Tomato Brothers in Clarkston. And they had the buffet, and it was only going to be open like another half hour. So we're going through the buffet. Well, it just happened to be that on that Sunday they had prime rib. Well, I get to the guy that's cutting the meat, and folks, seriously, he's got the thing that he's cutting the meat on, and over here is like a pile. I mean, a pile of all the end pieces of fat and all the trimmings and all the spices that you put on it with the little bit of meat and stuff. And he goes, "What would you like?" And I said, "What I want is that pile." He goes, "You want what?" I go, "I want that pile right there. Just throw it. Yeah. Don't just throw that pile right here on the plate. Just so no, all of that. No, put all of that on there." And folks, I'm here to tell you, to this day, and listen, I've made a lot of great prime rib, but I got to tell you, to this day, honestly, that's maybe the best thing I've ever put in my mouth. And it was full of fat. The fatted calf. Come on. Somebody say amen. Go get that fatted calf and slay that baby and kill it and let us eat and be merry. For thy son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found, and they begin to be merry. It is time for a party. We're not waiting, not in 2 weeks. Well, I'm glad you're back, son, but you're going to have to go to work for a little while, and then maybe we'll have a party in about 2 or 3 weeks. No, it loses all of its luster. It's time to party right now. Somebody say that. It's time to party right now. It's time to feast right now. It's time to worship God right now. Now is the time to worship. Come just as you are. Now is the time to worship. Now is the time to be merry. Now is the time to feast. Now is the time to be happy. We might even listen to that here in just a couple minutes, but now is the time. And I want to close with this. For all of you tough love people, understand wisdom. I would perceive that after the party, after the making merry, after the celebration, after everyone was full, after all of the servants, I haven't gotten to the jealous brother yet. He's over there. All the servants had hugged the son, had welcomed the son, had kissed his hand, had made him feel incredibly welcome. Mom was still crying like a baby in the kitchen, making the food. That son returned. She's overwhelmed with emotion. And as the evening begins to wind down, and the servants have all cleaned stuff up, and everyone is full and satisfied, and life just couldn't be any better. Potentially, Dad said to his son, "Son," put his arm around him, "Love you, man. I just can't tell you how much it means. But come on in. We need to talk for a couple minutes. We need to talk." Went in to the office. Dad didn't sit behind his desk, but they both sat down on the couch next to one another. And I perceived Dad even held his hand. "Son, so glad you're home. But there's some things we're going to have to do to kind of clean it up a little bit. And it's going to require on your part some effort and maybe some things you don't want to do, but it's going to be all good." You understand what I'm saying? "Yeah, Dad." Okay. And then you just share a little tough love, whatever the situation might be. But folks, by then, you got a brand new child. And the child's ready to receive.
Yes.
And the child now will be made in the image of his father. And that's you and me. Let's all stand. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Musicians, if you'd come, please. I want to sing How Great Is